Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Importing and Exporting webinar. My name is Nick, and I will be doing the presentation with you today. Just like all of our previous webinars, everybody will be on mute, but if you do happen to have any questions at any point during our class, please feel free to go ahead and type that into the questions and answers section. And at the end of the class, I will go through and answer any questions that may have come up. Also, at the end of the class, I will be sending out an email that will contain a document that covers everything that we're going to be learning in today's class. Should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, please don't hesitate. You can contact our support department, and they will be happy to help you out with any questions you might have. Again, today's class is on importing and exporting in Envisioneer. So we're going to be basically going over, again, just the importing and exporting features of Envisioneer. Now, when we are talking about importing, we are talking about when we are taking something that was created in another program and we're trying to bring it into Envisioneer. Now, when you are creating a design in Envisioneer, there are a few different tools available for importing your custom objects. You can import objects, drawings, and materials. You can import your CAD files, such as your DWGs and your 3ds files. You can also import SketchUp files and image files, such as PDFs, JPEGs, and bitmaps. When we're talking about exporting, when you are finishing your design, you will probably need to consult with other industry professionals, such as engineers and builders, or with other people who are in some way involved in the project. Sharing files electronically is an easy and effective way to communicate with people who do not have Envisioneer installed on their computers. There are a few different ways that you can create files for sharing electronically. You can print a view to a PDF file. You can export a view to a bitmap, JPEG, PNG file, or TIFF file format. And you can also export a 2D view or a 3D model to a DWG or DXF file format. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is importing 3D objects. For a truly customized design, you can import custom 3D objects into your Envisioneer drawing or catalog from any outside source. The object wizard makes it easy to import your DWGs, your DXFs, your SKPs, or your 3DS or OBJ files. To import an object into Envisioneer, you're going to go up and you're going to select File, Import, and then you're going to select the Object Wizard. Once you select the Object Wizard, you're going to see the Object Import Wizard dialog display on your screen. Now, in here is where you have a couple of parameters that you can adjust. First being giving the element a name. So if you know what the element is that you're going to be bringing in, you're going to want to give it a name here. So we're going to bring in a column. So I'm just going to type in column. And then what we're going to do is we need to define the type of the element that we want to bring in. And in this case, we are going to be bringing in a column. So I'm going to select the drop down and I'm just going to select column. Now, as you can see, when I use the drop down, there are a lot of different options available to us, and we can choose whichever option we want depending on the element we're bringing in. Again, we're going to be using a column, so I'm going to select columns. Depending on the element that you select, you're going to have two choices. You can have the insert on location, or you can have an insert on terrain. Now, we are inserting this column, so we're going to be saying this is on the location itself. But if I was to insert an element like an exterior accessory or exterior furniture or exterior lighting or exterior structures, these are elements that will allow me to choose, do I want to insert that on the terrain? Because they are part of the exterior, so they could potentially be on the terrain itself. We are just going to keep our set to columns, and it's going to say insert on location. So it's going to refer to whatever my building locations define. Then we just need to select the object we want to bring in. And so I'm going to hit the select button. And depending on where you are on your computer, you can have the objects stored in a specific file location. Mine are on my desktop, and I'm just going to go to the SKP files, and we're going to make sure we are importing an SKP. But as you can see, you can import DWG, DXF, SKP, OBJ, 3DS, IFC file formats. We are doing SKP. And I'm just going to find that column, which is going to be custom column, and we're going to say open. If you are importing a SketchUp file, you will get a message that pops up asking, do you want to force this SketchUp file to be single-sided? And in brackets, we say recommended. This is because when a file is created in SketchUp, it will have two faces. There will be an exterior face and an interior face. This will double the size of the file when you bring it into Envisioneer because it needs to map both faces. But we can make it so that only one side is visible, which will help reduce the size of the files that are being brought in. This is an excellent tool to help decrease file sizes and block sizes. However, you will want to make sure that the element that you're bringing in was created with the faces oriented the right way so that the exterior side of the face is to the exterior. If you don't, and if you select this option and you start to see through the element, then that just means the block was created with the faces in the wrong direction, and you will just need to re-import it with it having the basically saying no to this dialog. So that way both faces are included. We're going to say yes to this because I want to force it to be single-sided, and we can now see that column. And I can see in the preview, I'm not seeing through any of the faces. So that tells me that this is created correctly. We then have a select how you want the components to be created. Now this is just a SketchUp file, so it's just going to be materials. But if you were importing a DWG, you would have by layer or by material as your options here. Again, we're doing a SketchUp block, so it's just going to be by material. Once I have that selected, I can now select next. This is going to be your orient your element option. And this is essentially how do you want that element to be oriented in the view. The best way to describe this is the red will be the floor and the blue will be the wall. So the vertical element or the vertical axis. So this column is correct. I don't need to make any adjustments. But if it came in wrong, I can use the arrows here to flip the element around so that it sits correctly or oriented correctly in the view. I'm going to select next. Now we can control the element's visibility in 3D, and we can also control what the element's names are. So this is a great opportunity to go through and start naming things so that I can very quickly recognize what they are and what I need to be adjusting. Now, this is a block that I created in SketchUp, so I know what these elements are, and I've made sure that the SketchUp edges are set to be my 2D plan view. So I'm just going to turn the visibility of the 2D plan off. I'm going to double click on that, and I'm just going to say 2D plan. Now it's going to ask me what the default SketchUp edges are, or sorry, SketchUp colors are. Again, I created this block, so I made sure I left one element to keep that color, so that way I'm able to take advantage of it. And if I need to know what it is, I can just simply click on the eye and I can see, okay, that's going to be the actual column. So I'm just going to call this column. Next is component 1. Close the eye and I can see, oh, that shut the base off. So that's going to be base. And this leaves cap. You can call it base cap or cap. I'm just going to type in cap. But again, you can just double check and make sure. And you can see there that it does, in fact, turn off the cap. So now we've turned off the 2D plan view because I don't want to see that in 3D view. I've turned everything else on and I've changed the name so it's very easy for me to recognize what they are. And then we just simply say next. Now we're in a 2D plan view. And again, I can turn off everything that I don't want to see in the 2D plan view and just turn on what I want to see in the 2D plan view. If you are bringing a block in from an outside source and you didn't create it, it probably will not have a 2D plan view. So you could take advantage of our outline tools or our slicing tools and you can actually slice through the block themselves to create what you want that to look like. So here we can see I'm getting an outline of that view. I can say add, and I will get a slice through that block. And I now have a 2D plan view. And I can change the name so it's not slice. I can make that 2D plan. I'm just going to delete that out because I don't want to include that. And then we're going to say next. And then we're going to say finish. And now attached to our cursor is our column. And I can just left click and place that in my design. Now, once that column has been inserted, it is just an actual element. It doesn't have any property, or sorry, any materials assigned to it yet. We've just brought the file in. So now I can actually double click on that imported block and I can see what it looks like. And I can start to make adjustments to, again, make this accurately depicting the column type that I want. So under appearance, we're going to make sure that this is the correct size, first of all. Pardon me. We're going to be under the basic tab, and under the properties, we're just going to say, I want this to be 8 feet high. Since I have uniform scale selected, it's going to automatically update everything when I start to make adjustments to it. So we're going to leave that as it is. But if you wanted to make fine-tune adjustments, you can just uncheck it and say, well, I want it to be 2 feet by 2 feet, but I still want the column to be 8 foot. And then I can just turn that back on. So now any further adjustments that I make will be a uniform adjustment, or I can keep it unchecked so that I have to adjust each individually. Under appearance, this is where you're going to go when you want to adjust how that block is going to look. So again, the 2D plan view, you can make it whatever color that you want. Typically, I go in and I just make sure I'm grabbing a color from our catalog. So I will usually just go to the colors folder and I'll select a basic color. And I'll scroll up the colors and I'll just grab the beige color and I'll say okay. Then under my columns, base, and cap, I will now assign a different material. So for column, I want that to be like a painted white color. So I'm going to select the material. I'm going to scroll up to my Benjamin Moore paint colors. I'm going to grab off-white, and I'm just going to paint this to be, we'll do moonlight white, and we'll say okay. The base, let's make this a stone base. So I'm going to select this color. So instead of being red, I want this to use a stone. So I'm just going to go down to stone, and we're going to say stone, cultured stone, and let's just grab the Aspen Country ledge stone, and we're going to say okay. Now when we look at that, that does not look correct. And that's because when we import a SketchUp block, underneath the mapping, it is going to be using a texture mapping of predefined. It is using whatever SketchUp was using. Since we didn't apply a material in SketchUp, it's just using a predefined mapping option. We want to change that to be face. And then once we say okay to that, we can now see that it changes the face of that to look, or sorry, the material to look a lot better as it's mapping it to the face of the object itself. I can fine tune that even further. I can go in and say, well, I want to override the tile size. Maybe I want these to be a bit smaller, or maybe I want them to be a bit bigger. So I can adjust the properties of the height to, again, make the stone look bigger for that base. And then I can just simply say, okay. And then the same for the cap. I want this to be concrete. So again, we're going to choose the material. We're going to change it from the color option, and we're going to make it concrete, generic, and we'll just do pour concrete 2. And again, right now it's not that bad, but if you go into the mapping, it's still using predefined. So we're going to make sure we say face, and then we're going to say okay. And that creates our column. Under the line work tab, this is how we want that column to look in 2D plan view. And as you can see right now, it's just black. So I'm going to highlight everything. So I'm going to hold my shift key down in multiple select, and I'm going to change the layer from none selected, and I'm just going to make that columns. And then I'm going to say okay. If I plan on hatching this column in a 2D view or in an elevation view, I will probably want to make sure I have a layer assigned to this. So I'm also going to change this to be set to a layer. Now I can use the same layer, so it's using a column option, or if I know I'm going to be using it as a hatch, I can just simply select the hatch line weight, or sorry, the hatch layer, and apply that to the object as well. And then the quantity tab, and this is where you're going to want to go if you want to enter any kind of quantitative data for the element you're importing. You can again adjust the phase and the usage, the category, part number, all of that can be added here so that it again quantifies the way that you want. And we're just going to leave that as it is. We're going to simply say OK. And now in our 2D view, we can see it's now blue. In a 3D view, we can now see all of the materials are now assigned to that column itself. And then if I ever want to use this column again going forward, I can save it to the catalog. So I can go up to File, Catalogs, Save Element to Catalog, click on the column. Would you like to save column to the catalog? Yes. Would you like to save anything else to the catalog? No. And then it will actually save that column to the catalog for us underneath the columns folder. And again, that will be there forever in our catalog. I'm going to go back into 2D, and I'm going to switch to a working drawing sheet. And the next thing we're going to be looking at is importing 2D drawings. So if you have any custom 2D drawings in a DWG format, such as title blocks or details, you can use the Import CAD File tool to import them into both your model view and your worksheet views. We're going to insert ours into our worksheet view, so that's why I switched over to a worksheet. And we're going to go up and we're going to select File, Import, and we're going to select the Import CAD file. Or if you like to use buttons underneath the Tools tab, you can, or sorry, underneath the Insert option, you can select the Import CAD file. And when you do that, it will bring up the Open dialog. And from within here, you can select the element that you want to bring in. So right now I want to bring in something from my Details tab. So I'm just going to double click on Details, and let's just grab the beam pocket detail. And then we're going to say Open. Once I do that, it's now bringing up the import dialog box, and I can see everything that is associated with that DWG file. So I can see the size is going to be adjusted for me. I can see the information over here is being added in, and I can see that the scale is set to 1/2 inch. Since I know that the scale is set to 1/2 inch, but I'm inserting on a 1/4 inch sheet, I know I need to double the size of this to make it true. So I'm going to double the size. So I'm just going to go by 2. And then I'm just going to say Insert. And then attached to my cursor is going to be that DWG file. And I can position that and place it anywhere that I want in my actual views. When we take a look at this, it's really hard to see this yellow line. So I may want to adjust that, but it's an actual block. So what I can do is I can select the block, select the edit definition. I can then select this layer, and I can go in and say that I want to change these layers. So I'm just going to go in and select these options. So I can see all of these. That's a different one. This is the one here and here. So we can see that these are all set to hatch dashed, and it's set to yellow. I can change the color of this so that it uses a different color if I want to. I can also go in and say maybe I just want to change the color of it. So it's going to be that orange color. Or I can just change it to a whole new layer completely. So if I want to, I can select these options again, just selecting the lines. And then we're just going to select these. And then instead of just using the option here, we're going to go through and we're just going to say wood, and we'll do red for that. And again, we can now see that it changes the look of those for us in that view. And you can, again, play around with these, adjust it however you see fit for the design you're working with. So next, we're going to be looking at importing images. So you can import 2D images in BMP, JPEG, PNG, GIF, or TIFF file formats. The import tools are available in both your model view and in your worksheet views. So if we go up and we want to import an object into our model view, so we go back to model, we can go up and we can select File, Import, and we can select the project trace image file, and that will insert an image file into our model. If we're trying to insert an image into our worksheets, so maybe we want to show a rendering on one of our pages, we can go up and again, we can go to File, Import, and we can select the Import Image option, or we can go underneath the Insert tab and we can just select the Import Image button. And then we can just simply go in and say, well, I want to insert an image from my D drive. And we're just going to select Documents, Envisioneer 16, Projects, and let's just grab our kitchen here and we'll say, okay. And then this will allow us to import an actual image. So this is a rendering of a kitchen that we want to show in our working drawing sheets. So I can actually select that image, make sure it's at the size that I want. So I can adjust the sizing to, again, match what I want for this view. And I'm just going to make it 60 feet. And that's just going to scale it down for us. We can also adjust the dimming. So we don't want it to be dimmed. We want this to be pretty prominent. So we want to make sure that it's not see-through at all. So we're going to make sure that it's not dimmed. And then we can just simply say insert. And then attached to our cursor will be that image file, and we can insert it anywhere we want in our worksheet. And then we can add text to this and print it out, again, just to show how we want that to look. I'm going to go back to model, and the next thing we're going to be looking at is importing a PDF file. Now, importing a PDF file, again, can be done in both model and in your worksheets. I like to show the model option because a lot of people will take advantage of getting a PDF from a client and bringing it into their drawing. Bringing it into Envisioneer to trace over top of. So we're going to do that now. I'm going to go up to File, Import, and I'm going to select the Import PDF file. This will bring up the dialog for, again, opening, and we just want to go to our desktop or wherever it is that you have your PDFs. And I'm just going to grab the Pool Shed PDF, and I'm going to say Open. We will see a preview of the PDF display on our screen. Now, PDFs can be created in a couple of different ways. There is a raster PDF and a vector PDF. A raster PDF is just an image file. This is typically created by someone scanning a already printed copy of a file, and then it's saved as a raster PDF and then sent out to whoever needs it. While it is handy in the fact that it shows you dimensions, as you can see when you start to zoom in on it, it becomes degraded in quality because it is just a pixel image. We assume that that's what you're going to get. So down here, you can see that the format is set to convert to image. I always recommend unchecking that whenever you are importing a PDF from someone that sent it to you, because again, you don't really know what it is that you have until you're bringing it in. Once you uncheck the convert to image option, what will happen is it will either convert to a vector PDF, which will show the actual lines, or it will stay looking like a raster image. And then you know that what you have received from the client or from whoever sent it to you is just a raster image, and that's what you're going to have to work with. Since ours converted to a vector, this is by far the better option, especially if I want to be tracing with it. So this will allow me to insert this PDF as a vector, and I can see the individual lines that make up that PDF. I want to make sure it is set to scale. And right now I can tell that this pool shed should not be 3 foot by 2 foot. So we need to make sure that we scale this correctly. To do that, what I typically do is I zoom in on a known dimension. And right now I'm just using the flywheel on my mouse to zoom in. You can also use your zoom and navigate tools down here. I know that that dimension should be 3 feet. So I'm just going to grab this scale X. I'm going to click on the pick scale, and I'm just going to go to the end of the dimension line. I do this because I know that there's only one point on the end of the line. If I zoom in, there is potentially a couple of different points, and as you can see, it is off in this area. So that could cause me to select the wrong point. So I always make sure I'm going to what I call the path of least resistance. I know there's only one point here, so I'm just going to select that point. And I'm going to go 1, and I just left click once, move my mouse down, left click again once it snaps, and then I type in the new distance. That should be 3 feet. Say OK. It's now scaled that up, and I can see that it's set now at a 1/4 inch scale because 48 is the scale factor. So I know that that is to scale. Don't be alarmed at the size, because what it's actually showing us the size of is the entire drawing area. So it's also including the title block. But we don't need the title block. We just need the pool shed. So I can use my crop box, set, and then I can just crop out what I don't want. So anything outside of that blue square will be removed. Anything inside that blue square will be inserted. We can also dim our PDFs. So depending on how prominent we want the PDF to be displayed on our screen, we can adjust the slider to, again, dim the PDF so that it is fainter, or we can leave it so that it is more prominent. I typically leave mine at about that 30% range. That tends to be, it's bright enough to see, but I can still see my walls over top of it. So you can play around with the option that works best for you. And then once you're happy with how the PDF looks, you're just going to simply select Insert. And then attached to your cursor will be that PDF. And then you can drop that into your drawing file anywhere that you need to. And then you can either trace over top of this, or if you're inserting a PDF into your worksheet, you're going to want to make sure that it is set up on a page that you can print out. So now we're going to be looking at importing BIM catalogs into Envisioneer. So we're going to go up to our website. So I'm just going to click on the internet here, and I'm just going to go to CADsoft. And we're going to go into the CADsoft page, and we're going to download a BIM file. So I'm going to go to BIM catalogs. And in the BIM catalogs, let's grab the closet accessories, and I'm just going to download that. That's going to save to my downloads folder. So I've just downloaded the BIM file for closet accessories. I'm going to go back into Envisioneer, and I want to import that into my catalog for use in any new drawings that I create. So I'm going to go back to File, Import, and I'm going to say BIM to Catalog. I'm going to go to my downloads folder, and I'm just going to select the closet accessories. I'm going to say open. What this will do is it will again now access that BIM file, and we can see here that we have the import items from a BIM file. And I want you to take notice of the structure of the dialog box. On the left-hand side is the catalog that you have open currently. So right now we have the Envisioneer version 16 master catalog.bdb. That is our master catalog. That is the currently open catalog in Envisioneer. On the right side is the BIM file that we are using. You can see that there's a transfer button and there's a little arrow that points in the direction that you're transferring everything over to. So we're taking from the BIM file and transferring it in the direction of our master catalog. So we're importing from here to the master catalog. If you want to bring everything over from the BIM file, simply select Document and then Transfer. And that will bring everything over under Elements and under Libraries. If you only want certain elements from the BIM file, you can select the Expand options, and then you can select the elements that you want to bring in. You need to do those one at a time. So if you don't want everything, you just want a couple of these items, select it, transfer, select it, transfer, and so on. By selecting the element itself, it will also include whatever is underneath libraries. So you don't need to go into libraries and worry about selecting anything in there. It will automatically link up with whatever is needed from libraries and transfer it over. If you want to see a preview of what it is that you're going to be bringing over, you can simply select it, right click and select properties, and then you can see, okay, that's what the shoes look like. I can say cancel. Maybe I want these shoes instead. Again, you can see how those are going to look. Same with the dress pants. So again, you can take a look at how these objects look before you bring them over. I'm just going to select Documents, and I'm going to hit the Transfer button. As soon as I hit Transfer, it's going to show me the status of what's going on, and it's scanning for duplicates. It's bringing everything over. And then once it's finished, it will say finish, and we can simply say okay, and that takes the elements from the BIM file and brings them over into our master catalog. And we can see here that we have interior accessories, and then we have a new folder called closet accessories. So if I go to elements and I go to interior accessories, I can see at the bottom I now have a new folder called closet accessories. And then in there, I can again go into the properties and see how it looks. I can say okay. And then again, this is going to take a second to load that up. I can go to my interior accessories, and I can now see all of those elements are now a part of my catalog going forward. So now what we're going to be looking at is importing an IFC file. Now, the industry foundation class, or IFC file, is a standard file format for all CAD packages to make file sharing easier. Envisioneer can import IFC models, and it recognizes walls, doors, and window elements during the actual import. To import an IFC file into Envisioneer, you're going to first start with a brand new drawing, as the process will delete any current elements within your project. You're then going to go up and you're going to select File, Import, and you're going to select the Import IFC. So I'm just going to go File, New, and we're going to say Create. That's just going to start a brand new drawing for us. And we're going to go File, Import. We're going to select the Import IFC file. It's going to ask me to find the location of where I want that IFC file. And on this computer, I have it stored under my D drive, under my documents, under Envisioneer 16 projects, I have just an IFC test file, and I'm just going to say open. It's going to give you a warning, just letting you know that once you do this, you are going to be removing anything on that location. So we just want to make sure we are in a new drawing. We're going to say yes. And then it's going to tell us what is going to be included in that IFC file. And we can choose what we want to include. We can change the material to be by color or by layer. We can change the heights of the elements, but typically it will just use whatever the heights of the elements are from the application you're importing it from. And we're just going to say OK. And then that just imports that file for us. And then we can go in and we can see how that is going to look. And that just brings in that IFC file. You can also select the elements, and if you don't like the way some things look, you can change it and modify it so that it's using a different object. So I can say select all similar. Already did, so we're going to go replace, and we're going to say I want that to be using just the cement board panel wall instead, and it just changes the material of that element itself. So again, if you have an IFC file, you can import those in as well. We're going to go File and Close. So now we're going to be moving on to exporting. So we're going to be creating PDF files. The PDF file format is a very popular format for sharing files. Many people have a PDF reader installed on their computers, and anyone can download the Adobe Reader for free from the Adobe website. However, to create a PDF file, you need to have a PDF writer installed on your computer. This is like a special print driver or utility that has the capability of producing PDF files. When a PDF writer is installed on your system, it will appear in your list of printers in the print dialog, just like a normal printer would. Some PDF writers are free and can be downloaded from the internet, and some can be purchased from companies such as Adobe. I use a couple of the free versions that are out there. I use PDF 995, and I also use Qt PDF. Those are two free versions that you can download. They work very well, and they include all of the paper sizes that you would typically need in the architectural field. So those are the reasons why I use those ones. But again, if you are already purchasing or already purchased Adobe, you will have the Adobe PDF writer as well. To print out a PDF, you would just go to File and Print. And then if you're on your worksheet or in your model view, when you print, you can select your printer or plotter, and you will have your PDF 995, your Qt PDF, your Adobe PDF, and you would just simply select it. And then from there, and actually I'm just going to cancel out of here. I'm going to go to a worksheet view so we can see this a little bit easier. And then I'm going to go File, Print. And we're again just going to use Qt PDF. And what we're going to see is the properties for the Qt PDF. What size paper do I want to be printing this on? I can make all those adjustments. And since I'm using the Qt PDF option, when I select the paper size, as you can see, it gives me a full list of all the different paper sizes available. And I just want that to be in HD. And then we'll see the paper size being adjusted. We can also adjust our print area. So you would just make sure that we are doing, I'm going to do a window option, and I'm going to select window. We create these title blocks with these little red arrows in the corners. Those will not print, but they are snappable so that you can isolate exactly where you want that PDF or that file to be printed from. So that's what those are for, is snap points for you. So now we've got the correct print area specified. It's centered on the page. If I want this to be in color, I would uncheck print all colors as black, and then we can see the actual color of the image. And then we just need to specify our print scaling. We want that to be print to scale. So we know that it's printing to the correct scale. And then if we want to print line weights, we would select print line weights. Once you select print, it will go through, it will analyze, and then it will bring up a save option where you can now save that file to a location on your computer. And it might just take a second here to specify where we want that to go. And then we're just going to save that to the desktop here. And I'm just going to call this webinar. And then we can say save. So now on our desktop, we're going to have a new PDF called webinar. And I can go to my page here. We are looking at, I'm not seeing it. So let's go back to Envisioneer. Oh, right there. So we can double click on webinar, and then we can see that webinar page there. We can also export images from Envisioneer, and you can do that in a couple of different ways. Now, you can export an image on the screen to a BMP, a JPEG, a PNG, GIF, or TIFF file format. And these types of files are raster files that can be opened in most graphic editing programs like Microsoft Paint and Adobe Photoshop. You can also import these types of images into word processing programs like Microsoft Office. You can just go into a 3D view and you can just select a view and you can go File and Export, and you can export it out as a 2D image. And it will export it out as a raster image file in whatever format that you choose. If you want to create a real photorealistic rendering, then that is a different process. That's where you would create your render 3D real view. You would render the view, so it's going to show you the actual shadows. And then at the end, when it's done saving or done creating it, you can save it as an actual bitmap JPEG or a PNG file format. So a couple of different ways, really all depends on what it is you're trying to create. And then here I can just say save, and it will save it again as whatever format I choose. If we go back into 2D and we go back to our working drawing sheets, if I wanted to export this out as a DWG or DXF file for someone to use in AutoCAD, then what I would be doing here is, again, going to the sheet or to the model view that I want to be exporting. And then I would just go up to File, Export, and I would select 2D Drawing. And if I'm in Model View, File, Export, 2D Drawing. And again, it's just going to give you the ability to give it a name, save it as a DWG or a DXF file, and then you would just save it to wherever you want, save or send that to whoever needs it, and they will then be able to open that up in AutoCAD. Just going to delete this PDF out. And the next thing we're going to be looking at is exporting to a BIM file. So if you would like to transfer elements or libraries in the current catalog to another catalog, you first need to export the desired content to a BIM file. And you can then import that BIM file into the catalog like we did earlier. So let's say we want to send this column to other people in our office. They want to be able to use that column as well. So what you would be able to do here is you'd be able to go up to and select File, Export, and you'd be able to export, and you can select Catalog to BIM. You can also say Project to BIM. So if you haven't saved it to the catalog yet, but it's in your project, you can use the Project to BIM option as well. We're going to do Catalog to BIM because we did save this column to the catalog. So now, again, I want to take notice of the dialog box. Again, the master catalog is on the left. The BIM file that we are going to be creating is on the right. The transfer button is in the middle, but the arrow is pointing in the direction we are transferring. So we're transferring from master catalog to a BIM file. Again, I can select document and transfer everything over. That's a pretty big BIM file, so I don't recommend doing that because it's absolutely everything in the catalog. So we want to isolate exactly what we want. And it can be one element, it could be a bunch of elements. We're just going to do the one element. We're going to grab this column and then we're going to say transfer. It then transfers just that column over and it says done. So let's take a look and we can see it did. It transferred the columns over. Under libraries, all of the materials came with it, all of the patterns, all of the line types, line weights, manufacturers, all of that information came over by just selecting the one element that we wanted. Once I'm happy, I just say okay. And now I can save this to a location on my computer, and this is going to save into my projects folder. So I'm just going to call this webinar export. And then we're going to say save. And it's done. Now, if I am, again, a user on a different computer and I want to use that column and it was sent to me, I would just go to File, Import, BIM to Catalog. I would then go to the location where I saved it, which would be Webinar Export, which is today's date. I would select that and open. And again, I would just select Document, which would bring everything over and transfer it. So again, that's how you can export your BIM files out for use in other catalogs. We also give you the ability to export to Sketchfab. Now, Sketchfab is a website where you can publish and share interactive 3D files. If you have an account on Sketchfab, you can use the Sketchfab export tool. And that is going to be located again under File, Export, and you will see a Sketchfab export. Once you have exported this to Sketchfab, you will then be able to open Sketchfab up and you'll be able to view your model in a 3D environment on that website. Again, you will need an account to do that. We also give you the ability to export to ResCheck. So you can use the ResCheck export tool to export data from your Envisioneer model to a ResCheck CML file. You can then open this file in ResCheck to determine whether your new home's additions meet the requirements of the International Energy Conservation Code or a number of state energy codes. To export your model data to ResCheck, you're going to go up to Tools, Analyze, and you're going to go to ResCheck Exports. Once you do that, you're again going to get the Save As dialog box. Save it to a location on your computer where it's going to be easily found. And then in the ResCheck application, you would then be able to open that file up. Now that covers everything that I wanted to talk about in today's class. So I'm just going to go over a quick review. Again, if you happen to have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and type those into the questions area, and I will answer any questions that you may have. So again, just to review, there are a number of different tools for importing custom objects, drawings, and materials into Envisioneer. When you need to share project information with others, there are several different formats to which you can import your drawing. You can use the Object Import Wizard to import custom 3D objects in DWG, DXF, SKP, OBJ, or 3ds file formats. You can use the Save Element to Catalog tool to save an imported object in your catalog for future use. Use the Import CAD tool to import custom 2D drawings in DWG format, such as details or title blocks, into both your model and your worksheet views. Use the Project Trace Image tool in Model View or the Import Image tool in a worksheet view to import images again in BMP, JPEG, PNG, GIF, or TIFF file format. You can also import a PDF file with the PDF utility in, again, both model or in a worksheet view. Use the print tool to create a PDF of the current view. To do this, you must have a PDF print driver installed on your computer. You can use the 2D drawing and the 3D model tools on the export menu to export your model to a DWG, DXF, 3DS, WRL, OPT, LP file format, SKP file format, or IFC file format. And then we also looked at how to use the Sketchfab and the ResCheck exports if you are looking to use those applications. So I'm going to pause here for just a moment to see if anybody has any questions. I'm not seeing anything just yet, but again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and type those in. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I will be sending out an email, and it's going to contain a document that covers everything that we've talked about. Should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, again, please don't hesitate. Reach out to our support department. They'll be happy to help you out with any questions you may have. Perfect. Well, there doesn't appear to be any more questions, so I do want to thank everybody for attending today's class. I do look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. So thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.